So we got some inflation CPI data to take a look at, and already the White House is saying trust in Trump. Wow. They're also saying from the White House, inflation down 2.4%. Okay. And the White House is saying wage growth up, and that's the January CPI report. So basically their message is, you're winning, trust me, bro. That's their messaging. Karen Levitt then says inflation is coming down, wages are going up, jobs are booming. Wow. We're all winning, guys. Trust me, bro. This is how you achieve affordability. The U.S. economy is roaring back to life thanks to President Trump. Here's the thing. You know what's bad? When even Fox News is calling out the Trump people. This is Fox News today. Fox News says money moves. Inflation remained elevated in January as the pace of rising prices stayed above the Federal Reserve's target. So Fox News is saying inflation remained elevated. Fox then also says the Consumer Price Index, CPI, rose 2.4% year over year, led by increases in food and housing prices. Energy prices are down 0.1% versus a year ago. So this is a very, very different message than, say, what they have over at the White House. The other headline then would be from Fox. Inflation eased slightly in January, but remained well above the Fed's target. So when you see messaging from, Trumpers in the White House and they say inflation down 2.4%, it is purposely misleading. And that's why you want to take a look at, multiple sources on this stuff. This is not unusual for Trump people to mislead. They do this all the time or just outright lie. Today it was interesting from Politico. There's a report regarding ICE and the agents who basically lied. ICE says federal agents appear to have lied about confrontation that led to shooting. They shot someone in the leg, if I remember correctly. This was the actual statement here. I'll read it. Quote, a joint review by ICE and the Department of Justice of the DOJ of video evidence, so they got tape on this stuff, has revealed that the sworn testimony provided by two separate officers appears to have made untruthful statements. Wow, so the ICE and DOJ are officially calling out their own officers here. Both officers have been immediately placed on administrative leave pending the completion of a thorough internal investigation. The U.S. Attorney's Office is actively investigating these false statements. And basically what it was, you remember, it was the whole broom and shovel thing. So I guess two officers lied about being attacked with a broom and a shovel and they ended up shooting someone. And it's not funny. I mean, they shot someone, and then I think they were also trying to deport one of the witnesses, et cetera, cover their tracks. But if there's video evidence out there and it's like really different than your story and you're just outright lying, just don't lie about this stuff. The same way with, the White House, you just look stupid when even Fox News is calling you out on these things. So what's going on with inflation? This is actually from the Wall Street Journal. They say inflation slowed to 2.4% in January, helped by lower gasoline prices. And when you take a look at some of these categories here, it tells the full story, and you got to look at all of it. So first, ground beef up 17.2%. And I want to hear from you in your market. Is this what you read also? Like from this year to from last year to this year, is your beef up 17.2%? And this is ground beef, so steak could be a lot more, it could be a lot less. I want to hear what you guys on the ground. Home healthcare cost up 12.7%, right? Watches 7.2%. So some of these categories you're going to buy more often, like meat, right? That's going to be much more often, right? Food, basically, you're going to buy that daily or weekly, depending on your situation with food. You eat all the time, but watches you don't necessarily buy all the time. Hospital care up 6.6%. Depending on your family situation, you may be going to the hospital more often. And this is pretty significant cost here, right? Healthcare, food, laundry services, depending on your situation, 5.8% up. Funerals, it's a one-time cost, but it can be very, very expensive. And if it comes at the wrong time, and hopefully you don't have to have too many funerals, you understand. It's up 5.6%. And for anyone who's been in this, you'll know funerals can actually be quite costly. Public mass transit at 4.9%. This would affect people on a daily basis. So again, this is why the numbers, when you see it's like, when you talk about, only up 2.4, 2.5%, like things are still through the roof. It just depends which categories that you look at. That's why it's good to look at separate ones. Apparel's up 1.7. I think depending on what exactly categories you're buying or where the stuff is coming from, but that's as an average. So the things that are bringing the numbers down is used cars and trucks, which you may not buy that often, and then gasoline, which could be a daily thing for some people. So that is significant, down 7.5%. So that's inflation. There was a paragraph here, though, from the Wall Street Journal that I thought was important to take a look at. And they're talking about essentially how good is the data. According to them, it says the much longer shutdown, talking about the government shutdown, this past fall was unprecedented obstacle to the government system for collecting price data, which might bend inflation numbers lower for months to come. So maybe some of these numbers won't be great. Economists have said they believe missing data on housing cost increases in October has artificially depressed, so kept down, estimates of how much those prices rose last year. So some of this data, again, may not be necessarily reliable, but it's going to depending on which categories that you look at. From Bloomberg then today, they say U.S. inflation comes in relatively tame, defying fears of jump. And that's why I showed you guys the thing in Wall Street Journal mentioning that some of the data may not necessarily be reliable. You can take a look at what was the estimate, what was the actual. This is the CPI month over month. So estimate at 0.3, came in at 0.2. Core CPI month over month, 0.3, 0.3. So that's in line with what they expected. Markets, you could say. CPI year over year, estimate was 2.5, came in at 2.4. And then core, 2.5 estimate, 2.5 actual. So it's not really anything to brag about. And then when you look at the actual categories, these are more. This is from CNBC. And it actually tells the full story. And so we're looking at all of it together here. So all items, 2.4%, okay? And this is year over year. So food at home, up 2.9%. That's pretty significant. It's expensive, right, to eat food, depending on also to which products. Food away from home, up 4%. And I just keep hearing from people that it's just too expensive to go out to eat in the USA. And for some people, it might be, a once a month kind of thing, just not that often anymore. It's just so expensive. And then things that are going down, I guess dairy's down a little bit, 0.3, 0.3. Cereal and bakery goods up about 3%. Meats, poultry, fish and eggs, but it's combining all the things together. So actually, I'd be curious in where you guys are, the price of fish these days. Just want to hear from you all. Other food at home up 2.1, and then I guess alcohol is more, and they include materials there. Gasoline may be down, but your electricity is up 6.3, and your piped gas service up 9.8. So that's pretty significant, actually. All three of these, right? So then overall, they say energy is down slightly. So that's why when the White House only cherry picks certain categories and say, oh hey, but your gas is down, but did you look at my my electric bill? Then looking at other categories, I guess alcohol's up, smoking stuff is up, airline tickets is up, motor vehicle maintenance and repair and motor vehicle insurance up 4.9%. So that's pretty significant. And then rent is up. There is an interesting chart here that shows you like the categories that are moving up the most. This is top 10 inflation categories in 2026. I feel like this is like the Billboard Top 100 or something. But that evidently video and video game rentals and subscriptions up 29.4%. And I remember hearing something about, for those of you who do like, I think it's Microsoft, Xbox, those kind of things, I think they raise their prices like crazy amounts. So that might be a big part of that. So cost of video games are up. Audio equipment, if you need to get any of that, that's up 13.5. Non-electric cookware, tableware up. Home healthcare up 12.7. You got SIGs there. Recorded music and music subscriptions, that's up. So this would be, like your Spotify's and your Apple's and whatever other music subscriptions are on that. Photographic equipment and supplies up. Inpatient hospital care is up 7.4%. So that's interesting. So the other number on the healthcare was a little bit lower. It was like at 6, but depends exactly which ones you're looking at. Veterinary services, I have heard this stuff, is up 7.4%. And this would be watches and jewelry. I think gold price might be included in this, is why I think things are up. And you go through all these categories because this is what Americans care about. We showed you this, guys, just before, just a reminder. This is from the Pew. Basically, what do you care about, right? The cost of healthcare is what people are concerned about. price of food and consumer goods, price of housing, electricity, and then lower down at the bottom is like stock market, which is something that Trump always brags about, but people don't necessarily care about it that much. It just you can see right here compared to healthcare is the number one here on this, and then food, which makes sense. And then Trump, they're talking about rolling back some of the tariffs because it raises costs and it makes it hard to do business. In fact, CNBC had this thing today. It was pretty interesting. It says Trump tariffs leave importers with record-breaking 3.5 billion U.S. customs bond funding shortfall. So basically, stuff comes in the port, and then you got to prove that you can pay these tariffs, but some of these companies can't. And it's, in fact, quite a large amount. I'll read it, and you guys will see what it's saying here. And so then I guess stuff just sits at port. A record-breaking number of companies shipping products into the United States, so bringing in goods from outside the U.S., are coming up short on federal government requirements to financially guarantee they can cover the import trade, right? So can they pay the tariffs, basically? Can they pay the duties? And this is leading to record amount of money paid to the U.S. to cover the shortfalls. And basically, again, it's just like a bunch of companies just can't pay, essentially. They don't have enough money. 27.5 thousand, so about 27,000 is a way to say it. And you can see here, number of companies receiving insufficient notices exploded in 2025. So it's what they're doing is really putting a dampening on business activity in USA. And so that's why then these stories become important, which we talked about before in the last video, of just basically corruption over in the cabinet or the White House, right? This is the whole gnome thing, and they're flying around in their luxury jet and partying up, having affairs, that kind of stuff, and firing people just on a whim. Oh, and then we hire you because we need you. It just shows their overall, who they are. It just came out today where Elon Musk and all the Trump people were complaining about USAID. But then it turns out they're using that money for themselves. Exclusive. White House uses USAID funds for budget director Vought security documents show, right? This is how ridiculous these people are. And so, over time, this credibility issue is real. And even Fox News basically goes against the White House on this stuff and starts to call them out. Because I think, even if you love Trump and you're all MAGA and that kind of stuff, if you turn on the TV and they're telling you, guys, price of meat is really cheap, and you're just like, I just went to the grocery store. What are you talking about? Like, you completely lose your audience. So even though I may disagree with Fox News audience on various things, I think even they would probably get fatigued if someone tells you that your price of beef is cheap when it's clearly not. So that's why I think you see this stuff, because Fox News, even though they are more Republican, right leaning, or pump Trump and that kind of stuff, they still have a audience to tend to, and that's why you'll see the stuff sometimes they'll come out and tell the truth on these things. Sometimes they say, but we'll see how more often, and we'll check in on this stuff. So I'd like to hear your thoughts, and I want to hear your experiences on any of these categories you looked at with inflation. And always appreciate your time, and I'll catch you all in the next video.